attacking us, slandering us, demonizing us, silencing you, making you too afraid to even say what you think. Tommy Robinson's live TV statement leaves the audience in shock. You're not going to believe what just happened on live TV. This wasn't some planned soundbite, not a rehearsed line, not the kind of clip that gets buried in the news cycle. No, this was raw, unexpected, and the silence that followed told you everything you needed to know. 3 minutes ago, Tommy Robinson dropped a statement so sharp, so direct, that the entire panel froze. Even the host looked stunned. And now the clip is everywhere. So, let's break this down. Welcome to Back Britain Unfold. It all unfolded during a televised debate, a primetime slot where Robinson was invited to speak on one of the most divisive issues right now: free speech, censorship, and the role of media in shaping political debate. The studio was tense from the start. Robinson sat across from commentators who've been highly critical of his views. The moderator kept a tight grip, but you could feel the pressure building. Every time he leaned into his point, the interruptions came. Pushback, fact checks, challenges. And then the moment came when Robinson cut through the noise with one of the most direct statements of his career. He said, "You don't have to agree with me. You don't even have to like me. But silencing me means silencing everyone who dares to challenge the system." For a split second, silence. The panellists didn't speak. The audience didn't clap or boo. Even the host paused, staring across the table like they had just realised the conversation had shifted. It was one of those rare moments in political television where the message lands so hard even the opposition can't quite find the words. Now, whatever you think about Tommy Robinson, and let's be clear, he is one of the most controversial figures in British politics, that moment is now shaping headlines because what he touched on wasn't just about him. It was about the wider fight over speech, power, and who gets to define the narrative. And that's why people are talking. The reaction online was immediate and explosive. Clips started circulating within minutes. On X, formerly Twitter, one viewer posted, "I don't support Robinson, but that line hit. Free speech isn't just about people we like." Another wrote, "This is exactly why he gets airtime. He says what no one else dares to." Of course, critics pushed back hard. One journalist blasted the clip, saying, "This isn't free speech. This is provocation dressed up as principle." But that only added fuel to the fire because once again, Robinson had done what he's done for years, forced the national conversation to orbit around him, whether people agree with him or not. Let's put this into some context. In Britain and across Europe, the debate around free speech has reached boiling point. From university campuses banning speakers, to social media platforms deplatforming voices, to TV producers carefully choosing who gets a seat at the table. The fight isn't just about what's said, it's about who gets heard. Robinson's critics argue he crosses lines, fuels division, and thrives on controversy. But his supporters argue the opposite, that he's proof of what happens when a system tries to silence uncomfortable truths. And that's what made this live TV moment so powerful. Because instead of backing down under pressure, Robinson leaned into the very issue at the heart of the debate, whether silencing one voice sets a precedent for silencing everyone. Insiders in Westminster are already weighing in. One MP reportedly told a colleague off camera, "Moments like this are dangerous. They normalise him." But another political strategist, speaking anonymously, said, "You don't have to agree with him to see why it resonates. He's framing himself as the underdog fighting an elite system, and people buy that narrative." And that right there is the crux of the issue. Because in politics, perception often matters more than policy. And in those few seconds of silence on live TV, the perception was clear. Robinson had taken control of the room. But here's the question everyone's asking now. What happens next? Because this isn't just about one viral clip, it's about momentum. If his supporters frame this as proof that he's still relevant, still capable of shaking the establishment, then expect to see more appearances, more headlines, more debates. But if critics manage to spin it as reckless, dangerous, or manipulative, then the backlash could be just as strong. Either way, the story doesn't end here. Let's not forget, this comes at a time when Britain's political climate is already supercharged. Trust in mainstream parties is shaky. Protests are rising. Social media platforms are the new battlegrounds of politics. In that environment, a single viral clip isn't just news, it's ammunition. And tonight, Robinson gave his supporters plenty of it. The silence in that studio may have lasted only a few seconds, but in politics, moments like that echo far longer. Think back to the big TV clashes of the past, the lines that still get replayed years later. They weren't necessarily the most sophisticated arguments. They were the gut punch moments. The words that landed so hard, The room couldn't move on. This could be one of those.